So I guess I could take the blame for that. And what they did is they took the microphone away from me. So I remember a quote, and it was after one of my promos on a pay-per-view, and we were in Toronto. It was Unforgiven, September 2006. I remember it was Umaga and Kane. It was their first televised match. And it was a big deal at that time because Umaga had primarily been working with a bunch of enhancement guys, and nobody really near the top of the card. So Kane was kind of the guy that you had to work with before you got to John, right? So I recall that promo, and Toronto is a town, much like Chicago, which is where I'm from, much like New York, much like Philly. They like the heels, right? And you can't tell them who to boo or who to cheer. There's certain guys they're just going to like and gravitate towards. So this was my first time in Toronto. We're on pay-per-view. They had given me a promo, I'd say, 10 minutes before we were supposed to go out there. But the worst part is they kept changing the promo on me, so the verbiage kept changing, and I was just like, I already had one version of the promo in my head. Anyway, long story short, I thought I cut the best promo, at least televised promo, of my career. And people will ask me, favorite match? And I'll say, well, I don't have a lot of favorite matches that I necessarily was in, but favorite promo I can tell you as far as televised, and that was Unforgiven. So I went along, and I mean the reaction was deafening. They were doing they did everything with me. They did the Escúchame, they did Everybody Listen to Me, they did my name, and they did his name, and they did, and it was just nonstop. And if you look in the crowd, they had signs that had like the whole catchphrase spelled out, and it was amazing, the energy, right? So I go to the back thinking, job well done. And I just remember getting chewed out and being told, and I quote, the same things that brought me to the main roster will get me sent back down the developmental. And I scratched my head for years trying to figure out how that's even possible, like to go out there and just do the best job that you can do. But ultimately, to your question, we were getting too over, and now the audience was starting to really like us instead of boo us, which the plan all along, which I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, was for us to be built up and then to be, to be fed, so to speak, to the superhero that is John Cena. So, yeah, they took the microphone away from me initially, and then my promos were, at least on TV, I was not allowed to speak on TV for several months. And ultimately, January 1st of 2007, we were in Miami for a Raw. And I remember Vince McMahon, I was standing in the middle of the ring getting ready to do a rehearsal, and he flat out looked at me and said, "You are no longer to introduce yourself. You're no longer Alejandro. You're no longer going to break the cigars. You're no longer going to make the crazy over-the-top facial expressions," and on and on and on. And it was just like, man, everything that worked for me that got this character over, you're stripping away. So that was kind of like that was really a sad day for me, thinking I was, because we were in the main events, we were doing all the house shows with John. Reactions were fantastic. The producers had nothing, the agents, the road agents, the Arn Andersons and the Dean Malenkos and the Fit Finleys, nothing but positive words, kind words, thank you for the house. And I'm like, Arn Anderson just told me, thank you for the house. Like, if you guys don't know what that means there's $500,000 that were made at the New Jersey Meadowlands that night. And John Cena was in the main event with us. Rather, we were in the main event with John Cena. And when Arn Anderson comes up to you and says that to you, and it's just like, why would Arn even say that to me if that wasn't true? And I look out in the crowd and I see people with Umaga and Armando signs. That means they bought a ticket to see us. But then it all came crashing down, January 1st, when they were like, this is not about you. You're not the window. You're the window dressing. So that was kind of deflating, to say the least. But, one thing I did learn is if you're meant to be in the mid-card, then you have to stay there. And if you're meant to be in the main event, then they'll tell you when they want you to get to the main event. And when they give you the green light, then you got to perform. But if you're supposed to be in the mid-card and you're performing at a main event level, that can get you in trouble.